Kyrie Irving really threw out a just a landmine in his game two post game chat with the media, asked about what he is expecting in his return to Boston, which, hard to believe, but obviously the pandemic played a role in that. This is the first time that he will be in Boston as a visitor in front of fans and actually playing in the game. So asked, what are your expectations? And, there are a number of different ways he could have answered that question, but opted to really pinpoint the fans and say, well, hopefully there's no um, belligerence and subtle
Subtle
racism,
racism.
and everybody knows about it. It happens in Boston, obviously, and which a lot of people have really reacted to in a polarizing way. Obviously, you hear Kendrick Perkins, who was a Celtic for a long time, and of course, is a popular voice around the league right now,
Yeah.
saying that he in his time as a player for Boston or against Boston as an opponent never experienced any of that. Doesn't mean
Right.
others haven't, obviously, but he never experienced it. But said with Kyrie Irving, it just feels like there's always a little bit extra. There's always trying to change the narrative. When you heard those remarks, Mark, what were your thoughts?
I thought it was, well, first of all, people have to accept the history of this city, and there is a history in this city of racism. Um, does it? It's the same as every other place in the country, as far as I'm concerned. But there's enough on videotape to know what Boston can be about at its worst times. But first thought I was the one who asked him the question back in 2019 about racism after the
DeMarcus
Boogie
Cousins.
Cousins incident.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, Kyrie kind of said, I can't say that it's happened to me. It's just sad that it would happen. And now all of a sudden he knows. I mean, or he has he experienced it? Because back then he was saying no. He didn't really say he had experienced it the other night either, but he had Durant on the side sort of egging him on, saying, the whole world knows. And Kyrie said, yeah, the whole world knows.
Durant, who, by the way, was very interested in coming to Boston just a few years ago.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's, you know, I would, it wouldn't, I wouldn't put it past Kyrie to take this approach, knowing he's already going to get destroyed by the crowd. He has a history of not liking to play in front of crowds that used to be his home crowd. So, he could be trying to flip the script a little bit that way.
Well, what's sad too, and I tweeted about this. There are just so many justifiable reasons for the crowd to eviscerate him
Yes.
come
Yeah.
Friday and most especially Monday when it's a
Right.
near full capacity attendance.
Yeah.
There, for it's like he doesn't realize, and we've always known since before he was a Celtic. This is not new.
Right.
We've always
Right.
known he's wired differently. He operates on a different. I was going to say on a different level, but that would feel like I'm complimenting him, and I'm not. he just he thinks in a different way than most of us do, and I don't think for the better, quite frankly. But that's my opinion, having listened to
Yeah.
him all these years. That it's like he doesn't understand
Right.
that you pledged your allegiance to Boston, to the
Right.
crowd, to season ticket holders, made a commercial, talked about having your number retired, and forever in green and all of that. It's and then that quickly, equally
Yeah.
as fast, turned your back
Yeah.
and plotted with a friend
Right.
to sign elsewhere. And you can do that, you can do all
Right.
that,
Sure.
but you have to be willing to accept what comes with it, which is that you're going to get booed mercilessly, and
Right.
that's not racism. I mean,
No.
there obviously, if the wrong things are said, that is inexcusable,
Yeah.
that is reprehensible. But
Right.
short of that, if you were
Yeah.
just booed and your
Yeah.
character is attacked,
Yeah.
that's justifiable. That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, there's a little calculation at play there by him.
That was a lot of it, because now the
It,
return is less about his return and more about how the crowd is going to react to
yeah,
his return.
exactly. And now after the Westbrook thing last night, the league has made a code of conduct statement about crowds. So, there's going to be a lot of attention tomorrow night on that, just because of what's already happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's building into quite a head. It's a national TV game. Be interesting to see what the national narrative is on this game.
Yeah, I want to thank Philly fans for just ruining it for everybody. That again, that quickly. It's unbelievable. Like that, we haven't had full stadiums, and in many places still don't,
Right,
including
right,
Boston, obviously for right now.
right.
We haven't had full stadiums in more than a year, and this is what we need to do. This is how
Right,
we need to celebrate it and
right.
treat athletes in your first trip back to the building.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't get it. I don't get I don't get people, quite frankly.
yeah. Well, that's Philly, you know.
Look how they
It's
treated Santa Claus.
Yeah,
yeah,
throw
yeah.
batteries at the poor man.
That was
He's
the
trying to bring presents.
that was the infamous Kyrie blah 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 game.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
no, that's sort of Philly. That can be Boston. You know,
Oh, no question, it could be
Yeah.
Boston. This depends on
Right.
who you are.
right?
Right.
Ron
No, it's
Artest.
again, it's not about the city. It's about people,
Yeah,
and a lot of
Yeah.
people out there suck.
yeah.
Correct.
And people have been cooped up, and they're going to come out. I mean, it's happening on airplanes. It's happening everywhere. People are going to come out thinking they're very entitled, and they're raring to go. Well, there's going to be a couple of people in the crowd who will probably unleash.
Well, look, I mean, it should go without saying, but if anybody out there who goes to the Garden, be it Friday or Sunday, and reacts a certain way that they shouldn't to
Right,
Kyrie Irving, you
right.
know, you are going to get what's coming to you. You will get banned from the
Yeah,
Garden. You will
yeah,
have your tickets revoked or season tickets revoked, or
yeah.
you won't be able to come to any events. Like it's
Right,
you need to determine one. I mean, if you are like the obvious, is it worth it? And two, more importantly, like, is that really what kind of person you are? Is
right.
is that how you're wired? Is that how you're built? Is that how, like, would it even? It's just what's, and maybe this is on Kyrie. Maybe this is me being naive, or more than likely it's that gray area in the middle. But I just I've been so looking forward to Kyrie coming back to Boston so that he can be booed
Right, right,
and get everything that he has coming to him in that regard, just
right,
getting booed.
right.
It never for 1 second even occurred to me what he brought up the other night in
No,
terms of him
no,
coming back.
no, 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 no. And with the exception of his first game back in Cleveland, which was his Celtics debut, so he couldn't very well skip that one.
Right.
This will be the first time that he has played in front of a crowd that he used to play for. He's avoided them. He avoided them in Cleveland. He's avoided it here. So it'd be interesting to see how he plays. I mean, because this is very much up in his head, obviously.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm sure he'll be great. and they'll go up 3-0 and get ready to
Yeah.
close the deal.
Oh yeah, and then Durant will, we beat Boston, we got him back, that whole thing.
Yeah.
It's yeah, no, but it's Kyrie is a different kind of dude.
Evan, any parting thoughts?
Basically, look, any criticism of Boston and their racist past is valid, although bringing it up at that point was a little something. But every fan in the building has a justifiable reason to boo Kyrie. So, I mean, you got to keep it civil, please. I feel weird I have to ask that. If you're going to the game, keep it civil, please. There's no need to go to certain levels. But Kyrie also bailed in this team and quit this team very clearly.
Yeah.
And he deserves to wear that. And his run from that and running from that he's constantly done has been kind of weird. But it won't matter because the Nets are going to win anyway, and they won't have to worry about this team anymore. And Boston will have to figure out what to do next season about handling Brooklyn. But all this stuff, I look, he said what he said, and again, valid stuff. But like, you know, you want to talk about racism in Boston, go talk to Bill Russell about it, and he'll be able to educate you on what is, you know, the deep rooted history of it. And he's been more vocal about it than anybody really, and what he's been able to do to shine a light on it and kind of grow. Like the thing with Kyrie is like his comments don't help anything, right? It doesn't bring the conversation. I mean, it happens. We need to turn the conversation, right? We need to see, there has to be ways to flip the narrative, so to speak. And Kyrie doing that doesn't help that. And there are people around that are trying to turn the narrative. I mean, you know, I don't know if you guys follow Dart Adams on Twitter, but he's been doing a lot of stuff like the history of certain boroughs of Boston and how certain genres of music have deep-seated roots in Boston, and how, you know, blacks have been at the heart of those particular, you know, roots, and culturally how Boston has a very rich black hair. Like there are certain, like he's doing a phenomenal job of trying to educate people the proper way. And what Kyrie just did, you know, kind of hurts that a little bit in my opinion, but maybe I'm also maybe not the person that should be talking about this. So, you know,
I just feel like, and look, we're almost out of time. So I want to say one very important thing. None of the three of us are truly qualified to talk about racism in Boston. So I want to make that abundantly clear to anyone out there. It's like, well, listen to these three white guys talking about racism in Boston. So there is that. But I also think some of these successes of Boston, and I'm talking about athletics, Bill Russell, you know, first black coach in the NBA, obviously hired by Red Auerbach. You know, Willie O'Ree, first African-American hockey player in the NHL. You know,
Right.
you know, we spend less time, not the royal we, not us. We spend less time talking about things like that than we do the, you know, all of the negatives, which should all be highlighted and not overlooked. Like, you know, the Red Sox being the last team to integrate a black player,
Right.
and, you know, the Yankees in general, and other examples. Like I feel like there are probably countless examples on both sides. But for whatever reason, kind of going back to what you first brought up, Mark, at the very beginning, that, you know, it's Boston gets highlighted more negatively than it seems any other city. And I can't speak to whether that's right or wrong in my own personal experience, obviously, but it feels like we gravitate to it more than we do any of the positives and celebrating the positives.
Right. And I think some people are comfortable with this idea of Boston being the boogeyman, you know, but you know, just thinking back, I was in school during busing. I was going to school up here. I knew some people in Southie. I mean, there are, you know, part of it is we earned it. I mean, there have been some bad moments in this city, and you know, Theodore Landsmark, I'll never forget when that happened. You know, black man gets assaulted with an American flag. There was a Herald photographer who took the picture. He won the Pulitzer Prize for it. But you know, it's there, and I think it, you know, it lives on, and it's very strong in the black community.
Well, it's interesting, and an ongoing discussion, important discussion, and one obviously a lot of people weren't expecting to be having this week, but we'll see what comes of the crowd response come Friday and Sunday at the Garden. Hopefully, we have nothing to talk about on that end. That, you know, there's not going to be any reason to have a boy, wasn't the crowd great conversation. It's the only reason to have a conversation about it after the fact is if something goes poorly. So hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully there's no, you know, vindicating Kyrie Irving, for lack of a better term.
You know, feel free. He should, like you said, the crowd should boo him. Think they have every right in the world to boo him, but you know, let's not turn into Philly. How's that?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.